You're going to need that microphone. We got 3 AFC West fans on the screen here to preview the AFC West. We're going to be talking all things AFC West during this episode of Division Previews. Yeah.
Dump bucket.
We're going to be giving hot takes for the division. Our record predictions at the end, of course. Some breakout players for y'all to watch this year. See if they can get it going and become NFL stars this season in the AFC West. And we're also going to be revealing who won last year's competition in the AFC West. I'm excited for it. Here with Joe. Here with Tony. Let's hop straight in. Hot takes, Tony. AFC West.
We took all this time before the show, before this started to record it, and I didn't think of one. And then as soon as I knew he was going to say the hot take thing, this thing popped into my head that I'm going to say out loud right now, but is so dumb and will not happen, but I'm going to say it anyways. Hot take right here, fired up, that the Urban Meyer stint in Jacksonville will last longer than Sean Payton this year on the sideline for the Denver Broncos. So how many games was that before Urban Meyer was quit?
Urban Meyer made it the...
There's no way.
7 games? 8 games?
No way.
No, he made it the whole season, right?
There's no.
No. He kicked the kicker or whatever, and then they were like, "All right, buddy, we're gonna give it over to Jim Bob Cooter or whoever the offensive coordinator." Didn't they finish out with like Jack Del Rio?
No, special teams coordinator stepped in, but if they wanted to go the Indianapolis Colts route, they could have just brought in like Eric Decker or somebody to coach them.
However long that Urban Meyer stint lasted, Sean Payton will like secretly leave for like health related reasons at some point. Before.
That's always the one that works, right?
Yeah.
I got health related has got me to leave the team.
Yeah, I'm gonna step away for health related reasons.
My hot take was gonna be Russ out by week 10, so we're thinking similar pass here.
There we go.
And Jarrett Stidham comes in and looks better. That was part of my
I'm telling you guys,
take.
I am trying to make these hot takes as spicy as possible.
See, my hot take is Russell Wilson's back, baby.
No.
I'm just going the complete opposite. That's not my hot take. I'm like you, Tony. When I was like, we had all this time, we were bullshitting, and then I was like, oh damn, he's gonna ask us for a hot take right now, and I was like,
Say something about the Raiders. Come on.
Hot take: Raiders have a top 20 defense.
Top 20. That's a hot take. To get into the top 20 is a hot take for the Raiders.
If you go back and look at the history of the Raiders, who haven't had a defense, a good defense in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I would say
top 20 is not good.
Okay, so how long was Derek Carr was with the Raiders for 9 years? They never had a top 25 defense at that time. So, and then you go back before that. So yeah, it's been a while since they've had a
make a hot take would make it like top 12.
That's what I was about to say. I think.
Okay, top 12 defense.
Oh my God, you just broke everyone's eardrums. But yeah, the top 12. Even
now
like
you can edit. Can you edit that?
15th,
can you go back and cut
16th,
it?
No, we're not cutting anything. 15th, 16th is average. We'll just say that. So say top 20 doesn't mean that they're gonna be good. That means they're gonna be below average still. I had another one down here. This is a spoiler, I think, not a hot take, and a spoiler for later in the show. Chargers Chiefs Week 18 will be a winner takes all game.
Yeah, that's not a hot take. That is
it's actually
Spoiler.
We'll get into that later. I'll talk about it. But it actually is something.
I agree. And I will be at that game in SoFi if that's the case. I have a wedding to go to the day before. Yeah. So you know when somebody sends you a wedding invitation and it's like it's like in January and you're like, there better not be playoff football on because I will not be at your wedding. I don't know why you would do this.
Or be watching the game at the wedding.
Shout out to NFL Troy. He made a video about this I think last week, and he said, if you're getting married anytime from now until February and it's on a Sunday or on a Saturday or Sunday, count him out already because he's not going to. That's on you. That's your fault for planning that wedding. Fall weddings, winter weddings, get them out of there. They should not exist. A great time is the springtime. People have your wedding in the spring and be nice about it.
Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, one of those two. We're in.
Let's go to the courthouse early Tuesday morning so I can still get my waivers in.
How about Elvis weddings? Elvis weddings, so it's quick, you're in, you're out, just like that. You can do it during halftime.
Yeah, Vegas destination wedding, or you can get some bets in. You can do whatever you got to do. It's a good one. I'll take that. But I mean, come on, especially like on the West Coast, you don't got time. You don't got time to. We got football at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, 1 o'clock, 5 p.m. We're watching football all damn day. And if you're a college fan, you got that on Saturdays. Come on.
Shout out to NFL Troy for the joke. Appreciate you.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke, Mike. It's facts.
By now, the Ballbuster Bowl will already be viral, so member.
I'm already pissed that I'm going to end up missing my fantasy playoffs on Saturday, whatever games are taking place that Saturday.
Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah,
Broncos.
Raiders have better defense than the Chargers.
Broncos offseason.
Here we
They
go
brought in
with that
Sean
again.
Payton.
We're supposed to make a bet around this. Did we ever nail something down?
Tony wants me to shave a lightning bolt in my head, which I'm
That's
cool
cool.
with because
I like
it's never going to happen. But yeah,
What do we have to do?
But what do you guys got to do?
You got to come up with that.
It's what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody's talented enough to put like a pirate or something. I'll put a pirate.
The same.
You know what? I don't want that. I don't want you guys to do. I was gonna say maybe you guys could wear Raider gear. I go. People do that. That's dumb videos. I want something that's gonna hit you hard, Tony.
I mean, offense, defense doesn't matter, Joe, but you can tell his confidence, Tony, in the Raiders by not putting wins. Wins.
But see, we can't do this because the one I was gonna have you guys.
What am I betting on again? I don't even remember what I'm.
He's
betting
saying
on.
the defense for the Raiders is gonna be better than the Chargers. Not the Raiders are gonna be better than the Chargers. They're just their defense.
Just the defense.
Actually, we're gonna narrow it down to just their middle linebacker. That's it.
So last year the Chargers had the 20. Last year the Chargers had the 21st ranked defense in the NFL. The Raiders had the 26th.
Yeah.
So I'm saying the Raiders jump them this year.
Except for the Raiders had their superstar on the field the entire season, and we were down our superstar the entire season. So keep that in mind.
Derwin James didn't play?
Joey Bosa.
Oh, Joey Bosa. Yeah. Oh, you guys got the bad Bosa.
We're not talking about the Chargers
what
yet.
you're saying,
We're
Tony?
going to start with the Broncos and save this steak for middle of the episode.
For this Charger is that a real helmet behind you?
That is.
Why doesn't he come prepared?
So you need to put that on when we do the Charger preview.
Why don't we just have him? He'll come with us when he has a good idea for the bet to be prepared.
Well, I want
until the end of this episode.
I was gonna say for you guys to jump in the pool at the Christmas party, but
that's easy.
Ooh.
The season won't be over by then. So
I'll
that's the
swim
only
laps in
thing.
that bitch.
If you're even ahead, I'll jump in at the Christmas party, and then if they finish the season ahead, I'll drive back out there, we'll record it, and I'll jump in that damn pool again. If the Chargers defense is worse than the Raiders, I'm going to be miserable every Sunday. It can't be.
Yeah, I don't want you guys to put on Raider gear or anything like that because I don't want you guys to be known as bandwagon fans, which those are 49er fans. So
if I was forced to do that, I would wear a hazmat suit. Anyways,
all right.
Let's talk about the Broncos. And we'll get to the Raiders and the Chargers. It's going to be its own 20-minute part of this. So let's get through the Broncos first. They added Sean Payton. That's the biggest thing, right? They are supposed to be getting an upgrade at head coach. I personally wanted Sean Payton to the Chargers. But the more and more we get closer to the season, it's souring on me, him to the Broncos. So we'll see. I feel like he just took that job. He should have waited for Dallas maybe. As far as adding players to their offense, they're getting Marvin Mims. He's going to get a little bit of an elevation here and a big role in this maybe, and we could see him do something possibly. And I think their biggest signing, because they need help on the offensive line desperately, is Mike McGlinchey. Defensively, Frank Clark is in here probably to replace.
Hold on, false start.
Yeah, I was like always Flinchy McGlinchey.
McGlinchey, yeah. DJ Jones is here in Denver now. He was with Seattle last year, or was he with Denver last year too?
I don't remember.
I think he was with Seattle. I'm not sure though.
You were supposed to do that research.
Yeah, I was supposed to do that research. My bad as the host. Randy Gregory should be back from injury. That's it. I mean, they've got some guys in the depth chart that they're looking at that could be better, but that's really all they added. They didn't change team too much other than getting Sean Payton in here. Tony, thoughts? Denver, go ahead. Fire it away.
I was really thinking that the Broncos would be much more competitive this year. Again, I just watched the first preseason game, and I just don't – it's just not good. It's not good when your coach has to force you onto the field. Like, look at what Derek Carr and the Saints did. You left that thinking, oh, my goodness, the Saints are going to the Super Bowl. Or, like, even – the Chiefs had their people out there for one. It still looked functional, and you could move the football. Like, there were teams that started their first team offense that didn't have a rookie on the field, and it was like, oh, I see this. Sam Howell looked functional. Good, yeah. The Broncos, it looked dysfunctional, and it looked like they were trying to force Russ to do the same thing. we're going to drop back 5 steps, 7 steps, foot in the ground, balls out here, identify where you're going almost pre-snap, you know, like you really only need 1 or 2 reads. It's just not how he plays. It's not how he's successful. It's not how he's been. So why would I think that it's going to be successful now? There's still questions injury-wise with, like, how healthy is Javonte Williams going to be? I think that's a big part of it there. And then the defense, I went and looked up because I put my breakout player on here, which is Baron Browning, because he's an edge rusher for them that I really like.
He's hurt too.
He's on the PUP list.
Yeah,
I was just like, wait, this guy's not playing?
Yeah.
Or I don't know when he's coming back. I didn't look it up. I was just like, okay. I don't have as high of hopes. I also am kind of soured on Peyton because of the Nathaniel Hackett thing. And I think one of the things we didn't talk about was originally a lot of people were saying he did this to protect Russ. I think he did it to protect himself. I think he looked around and was like, oh, wait, this preseason game, this might be shit. Like, I need to let people know how shitty it is.
Yeah.
Like, he was watching practice and goes,
That's a good point.
wow, I need to say something now because this team is crap.
Yeah, like he's like, I've been working with him because he's been there for however many months, right? He got there March or whatever. He waited until like 10 days before the preseason game to go on record and say, just so everybody knows, this team was a disaster last year. So whatever you see, it's not entirely my fault.
Yeah.
Well, everything that Sean Payton did to build himself up in New Orleans in just a few months has already tore himself down. People like he's becoming a joke in some NFL locker rooms where he's making a bunch of rules. And I don't know if he had these same rules in New Orleans, but you got to be with the times. Like, people change, players change. You don't coach the same way. You got to coach. You got to change your coaching habits just a little bit. Can't wear bucket hats, Tony, in Denver, right?
That sounds like an Urban Meyer take right there, actually.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that he's not allowing to do it. I mean, we were all happy that he wasn't allowing Russ's personal trainer in. That's different. But, I mean, there's, like, you got to have fun.
In-game interviews for the players.
You're not allowed to listen to Taylor Swift at any time.
Really?
No.
I love all the Swifties are like, what's his address? I do think that some of those things are good though. Like I think establishing culture or or what you want the mentality to be, like all about ball, like that, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just in conjunction with him trashing another head coach. Like, shouldn't that be on your list of no-nos? Like, hey, let's not trash other teams.
Yeah. And we've seen some pretty bad, like Urban Meyer. You didn't see anybody go into Jacksonville and just start talking crap about what he was horrible. Yeah. And you don't see that. Like, coaches have an oath because his defensive coordinator is Vance Joseph, who was the head coach in Denver at one point, and the head coach in Denver. And you didn't throw him under the bus. Was he head coach in Denver?
He was head coach in Denver,
for a little bit there.
And now he's back. You might need him. And you're going to play Nathaniel Hackett, and he has a lot of friends that are head coaches or coaches somewhere. You don't think, like I talked about this in one of our podcasts earlier, now I think that just puts a lot more people hating the Broncos and a lot more people coming after the Broncos. And I don't know what it is. Maybe the movie that they made about Sean Payton, maybe him being on TV, I think it gave him a bigger head and made him think that he's a better coach or give him that ego to come out here to Denver and just try to run stuff. But I don't know. I just feel like it's gonna backfire hard on Sean Payton and the Broncos.
You guys all know damn well I didn't watch the movie, but wasn't it a parody?
No.
It wasn't supposed to be.
It was. What was it?
It was a serious movie. It was a comedic look at Sean Payton's year off. Like, that's all it was.
Okay.
Was that's like that whole Bountygate thing, which is still one of the reasons I don't really particularly like the Saints. But like,
took one off Peyton or Favre, one of the two.
Favre for sure.
Took Favre versus Peyton in a Super Bowl away from us too.
Yes, like I mean, and Drew Brees got one, which is great. I think he deserved one. He's a Hall of Fame player, all that stuff. When you're going into a situation that was as bad as it was, like there's no reason to take those shots at Nathaniel Hackett. Like there's no win for your player or for yourself or anything. Like
we're talking about the AFC West where we have the Chargers, the Raiders, and the defending Super Bowl champions, and we just spent 15 minutes talking about Sean Payton and the shitty-ass Broncos.
Yeah, and just read the room a little bit, Sean. Like, these guys just got tortured for a year. Maybe loosen up. Let them have some fun, at least in training camp. Holy shit. Let's talk about the Chiefs. Let's get off of this. Let's talk about the Chiefs next here, the defending Super Bowl champions. As Joe just said, their offseason was very interesting. And, of course, they're the Chiefs. They have Andy Reid. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Travis Kelce. I learned my lesson last year not to just go crazy downward on the Chiefs because of some losses, but they lost Juju Smith-Schuster. Chris Jones is in a pretty ugly holdout right now. They're finding him every day, it seems like. So we'll see how that ends. We've seen that it seems like when Tyreek Hill's mentality shifted to where he wants the money more in the championship, all of a sudden Andy Reid was fine with showing him the door and getting those picks. Chris Jones' mentality shifting a little bit. Like, I've been taking pay cuts. I haven't been the highest paid in the league, but we've been literally putting the entire defense on my back. Is Andy Reid going to give in? Is that management going to give in? Or are they going to do the same thing they did with Tyreek Hill? I think that would be the nail in the coffin for me if Chris Jones was dealt or doesn't play for some reason. What's your guys' thoughts on the Chiefs offseason? Of course, they're going to be the Chiefs, but Tony, go ahead.
I hope with every part of my being that they trade Chris Jones.
Yeah, we're Chargers fans, by the way, everybody.
Dumbest move possible. And there's a difference because you still have Patrick Mahomes. You trade away Tyreek Hill, you still got Patty. You trade away Chris Jones, and that defense looks a lot different without that guy.
And the Eagles will acquire him.
Oh my goodness, that would. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, has a team that's won the Super Bowl ever gone 2-15 the next year? Because that's what I hope is the case. And in that 2-15 season, I'd like for the Chiefs to be healthy the whole year. That is not the case. That will not be the case. Andy Reid has, and I think the narrative's been pushed a lot more, like especially like Nick Wright does an amazing job of talking about a Chiefs dynasty that isn't even a Chiefs dynasty yet, but like he has the ability to craft a narrative that's going on. Andy Reid's entered into that level of coaches that I have, Bill Walsh and Parcells and Belichick, where it's like another level of coaching. You know, I think where the guys like Tomlin would like to get to and Pete Carroll. I think Mike Tomlin's a really, really great coach. There's like another level of these guys that do their job and do it to where it's just crazy. I look at the wide receiver core and I go, doesn't even matter. They're going to figure it out. Whether Justin Ross can stay healthy or more, they will just be fine because they have Mahomes and Andy Reid, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, and the biggest question marks coming into this season is going to be their wide receiver core, and it's going to be their defense. Can the guys who performed last year, some of the rookies, can they continue to play at their level that they did their first year? So that's it. I mean, but like you said, Andy Reid's still their head coach, right? So they're still going to go out there. Patrick Mahomes is still their quarterback. They're still going to dominate. So I'm not going to write them off. The Kansas City Chiefs right now are defending Super Bowl champions, and they are, in my opinion, one of the best teams in the league until they prove otherwise. So I'm not going to write them off and be like, oh, no, they don't have this and this. It's Kansas City Chiefs. And they didn't need to add a lot to it. I think if they would have went and got a wide receiver, that would have been fine. But I think they switched out their offensive tackles. So I don't know if they got better there or if they got worse, but they're they should have two brand new offensive tackles, right?
Yeah. Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor. I don't think they got better there. I think that they probably lateraled to a little worse. I mean, starting caliber.
Andrew Wiley.
Yeah, he wasn't that great, but I'm not a big Donovan Smith fan. I didn't think that he was really good in Tampa, honestly.
It's going to depend because I think teams and players always play better when you can't be as aggressive with Patrick Mahomes. You know, you got to be disciplined. You got to stay in your lane. You got to contain the edge. You have to do all these things. Like, this is what happens. You can have lesser quality offensive linemen when you have great game planning and offensive coaching and the quarterback that commands it. That's going to keep you honest. So, like, I mean, look at what happened in the Super Bowl. I know we can say the field and all this stuff and whatever else, but even Patrick Mahomes on half a foot was just.
Yeah. All in all, I'm not very concerned about the offense taking very many steps back just because Juju Smith-Schuster left. I mean, I feel like they're going to figure it out. They're going to put it together. and people are going to step up, and Patrick Mahomes is going to, like you said, command that they step up. I'm looking at the defense, and I think there's 3 key players for them, and they might be the breakout players too, so I'm sorry if I just ruined it for you. The 3 key players, to me, that will determine how far the Chiefs go come playoff time is how much better can George Karlaftis get off the edge? How much better can Trent McDuffie get outside? And in the middle of the defense, can Nick Bolton continue to grow into the player that
Did I not just say that, Tony?
Yeah, that's why I said I agree with you, Joe. I didn't.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
It's hard to admit
what?
that I agree with Joe very often. All right, Joe, tell me about the Chargers. We're gonna go to the Chargers here. Obviously, drafted Quentin Johnston, who they're adding to their offense. Austin Eckler's on a 1-year deal, so he's not holding out. He's gonna be playing. We're getting Rashawn Slater back from injury, which moves the left tackle to right guard from last year. On defense, they replaced Drew Tranquill with Eric Kendricks, which I didn't like at first, but the more and more I'm seeing Eric Kendricks, I'm starting to like it more and more. J.C. Jackson will be back from injury. And then they obviously lost Nas Adderley, but you probably know. Do you know who Nas Adderley is?
Yeah, I know who
Okay,
Nas.
yeah. So that's our big loss.
I wanted
defense.
Nas early out of college, and
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't get him.
Go ahead, Joe. I'll let you lead us off here for the Chargers and tell us how we're going to see a Lombardi Trophy in the middle of that field by the end of this season.
I don't know if you'll see a Lombardi Trophy. Really, health is the main thing that helped the Chargers over the offseason, right? And you saw that last year when people started to go down. That's when the team started to go down. Even Herbert taking the big hit against Kansas City early in the season knocked them off a little bit. So you got to have that. You still got Brandon Staley, but you brought in a new offensive coordinator who I, as a Raider fan, hated to see that move. A lot of Cowboy fans are like, they're going to see what? Justin Herbert put up 50 touchdowns this year? Like, that's what that you just gave Justin Herbert a great play caller who's going to pass the ball, and it worked to his strengths. But the only thing I had, when we went out to Charger camp, Mike, the only thing I still question is the defense a little bit, especially the defense of the running game. I question Kenneth Murray. Like, you guys have been hoping that Kenneth Murray was going to be the guy. And everybody, Kenneth Murray coming out of college, he had a bunch of hype on him. Like, I like Kenneth Murray coming out. He just hasn't been there. But they're saying that he's locking up with Eric Kendrick, following him around like a little puppy dog, learning everything from him. So they're saying that's getting better. I don't know. J.C. Jackson finally going to be the guy you guys hope that he is? I don't know. But it seems like your defense needs to take that step. The offense, I think, is going to put up tons of points this year with Kellen Moore calling these plays. So I don't think you have to worry about blowing another 30-point lead or, 27-point lead to Jacksonville in the playoffs.
We don't want to talk about it.
But, hey, you guys made the playoffs, so be happy, huh?
That's true, right? Right? That's true. Talking about Kenneth Murray, we got a secret weapon also wears number 0, Joe. You're going to learn his name eventually. Just get ready.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll be year 1 unless he's making special teams plays. So lots to unpack with what Joe just said, but I want to make this clear. Brandon Staley takes a ton of heat. In year 2, coming in after COVID, establishing culture and whatever, like, he did an amazing coaching job last year. When you really step away, you take the fandom out of it. The amount of players that this guy lost and was still able to keep the team together, rally around, make tough, like saying, you know what, we're going to go ahead and put this guy that we had scheduled to play guard out here at left tackle. We're going to give it a shot. We're going to, like, to make those decisions, like, that could have completely backfired on him. He's got an injured quarterback, and he's putting a rookie out there that they had scheduled to play guard, play a tackle. Like, the moves that he made in defense, like, yeah, the defense wasn't great. If you lose Joey Bosa on your defense, like, you're going to have some issues there. If you have injuries in your secondary, J.C. Jackson, Nas was hurt a lot. Like, you're going to have to do that. He did an amazing job coaching last year, and we just look at it because, oh, he has Justin Herbert. He should be winning 13 games and doing all this stuff. Yeah, but he coached a winning season through a ton of injuries last year. The defense is going to be amazing this year. It's going to be absolutely lights out. You think the offense is going to be that good? I say the defense is going to be even better than the offense. That's how good it's going to be. Going to be an amazing season. I don't need to make this anymore.
Well, that was the main talk at Charger camp when I was talking. Because people go, oh, you're just a Raider fan. Why are you going to all these camps? Mike and I go to different camps, and Tony, we try to get you to go with there. One day we're gonna get
He
you.
doesn't like us that much.
And it's not to go to spy on our team or to hate on the team. We like to interact and talk with other people and see how fans are thinking about their team. It's something to sit there with Charger fans and see, their sometimes biased reaction, or sometimes you find a good fan that's not biased. And that was like a lot of the things I was getting from some of these Charger fans is I was like, hey, is the offense good or is the defense just bad, or is it kind of a mixture that both? And I think the question mark was the defense but if you're saying maybe it's just the offense tearing them up because the offense is just that good, Tony.
I just think the biggest point for the Chargers this offseason is they have a lot of depth. I mean, they could sustain a few injuries now this year. Last year, the depth wasn't quite there like it is this year. They were able to piece it together like Tony's saying. And, yeah, Brandon Staley does deserve a lot of credit for that. He does deserve a lot of credit for piecing it together the way he did last year. But this year especially, like even the backup O-line in that preseason game looked amazing. They looked stellar. You look at the backup receiving core. Last year, the Chargers were down to playing Michael Bandy and DeAndre Carter as starting receivers in games. I mean, we would need, knock on wood, to get through Palmer, Guyton, Davis, Doss, Hightower till we were getting to that kind of talent again this year, other than the starters of Q1, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. I think the Chargers are built to
What Doss
on a long
Is that
run.
San Jose State product, Keelan Doss?
Yeah, and Easton Stick was dotting up with him in that preseason game.
Former Raider Keelan Doss.
And then you look at what the Chargers took, the jump they took in special teams last year. Now they're adding a legit return man in Darius Davis this year.
No,
I'm
I
here
said
for
San
it.
Jose.
I'm here
It's
for
not
it.
San Jose State. He went to
I don't know where he went.
I have no idea.
what's
I
that
have
little
no
one
clue.
that
I don't even know why you know.
Well, I should know because my son went to that college.
Oh, awkward.
Ooh, it's right there by Sacramento.
I have
It's on the outskirts.
I have no
it's
idea.
not San Jose State.
You almost forget about Gerald Everett. You almost forget about Donald Parham.
UC Davis is where he went. My bad.
You forget about Josh Palmer. Like, this team is now
The team's absolutely loaded.
loaded.
Mike.
Exactly.
To me, the idea is like in year two, just the way that it ended, the way the last 2 years have ended, they've been so like scarring to the fan base that I sent some pretty irrational messages in our group chat about Staley and Telesco and everything. Like I do it all the time. I get emotional. But when you really remove yourself, it's like, oh, wait, look at the direction that the team is headed. And then you see the roster this year and you're like, this team next year, we might be sitting here going, can they survive losing Mike Williams and Joey Bosa to cap casualties or something like that? And it's like, oh, yeah, because, Thule stepped up and Chris Rump stepped up and Palmer's emerged and Johnson's emerged. Like, that's what's being built. It's a fantastic thing that's being built for the Chargers right now.
And
Now, what about the hot seat, though? Is Staley on the hot seat this year?
No.
I don't think he is. But there was I hate when unknown or unnamed executives come out, but there was an unnamed executive who came out and said Staley is the worst coach with the greatest roster out there.
I don't know what that means.
And I think Staley gets a lot more heat than he has. And I'm a Raider fan, but we laughed at it when Staley was hired because we're like, but the background that he comes from, I think you just need to give him time. And I think he realized, hey, offense was the issue, and he went out there and fixed it, right? He did not get you another play caller. After all the fans last year were saying, get rid of Lombardi. He might have waited too long, but he finally did it. He was willing to make that change.
He's a defensive head coach who said, you know what? I know what I got in Justin Herbert, and 3 years in a row, I'm going to go left tackle, guard, wide receiver. Like, this is a defensive head coach who said, I'm going to pass on guys like Nolan Smith in this draft. Like, and maybe for whatever reason, like he's like, I'm not going to stand on the table and demand that I get these certain players at these positions. I'll get a Sante Samuel Jr. and coach him up in the second round. And not, like, who could they have had in that draft? Like, J.C. Horn, or who was still on the board? I know Surtain was gone. I think Horn was gone too. But, like, they could have drafted a cornerback in the first round of the prior year. This is what I'm just saying is, like, this idea that the worst coach with the best roster, like, I guess if you're going to compare him to the Chiefs and the Eagles, like, I don't know, I'd make an argument Mike McCarthy be pretty close in this conversation. Like, you're talking about Pete Carroll. Like, you can start looking around at the rosters. You're like, so we're going to take the top 10 rosters. Sure, he might be the coach with the least amount of experience in that thing. So, yeah, you would be on a short list because you're not going to compare him to the bottom of the league.
No.
Yeah. And he's drafted our starting corner, ASJ, brought in Austin Johnson in recruiting and Sebastian Joseph Day in recruiting. You talk about drafting Zion Johnson. Yeah, I was about to get there. Drafting Quentin Johnston. Brought Khalil Mack over. I mean, you talk about the loaded roster, the worst coach. I mean, the loaded roster doesn't exist without the coach. So I don't even know what that means, honestly.
Yeah, and the GM. And Telesco's done a fantastic job, and I think they're doing a good job with the salary. Like, I don't see the Chargers in a situation like where the Rams are right now. Like, I don't see them in 2 years from now, and you're like, wait, who are these players on the roster?
Yeah. All right, let's go to Vegas. Enough Chargers.
We're going to Vegas. Let's go.
Let's go to Vegas. Vegas. Let's talk about the Raiders here. And so they got Jacoby Myers and Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, I guess Jimmy Garoppolo came from the Niners. I just forget that he even played on the Niners sometimes. I was going to say from the Patriots. But Jacoby Myers, Jimmy Garoppolo to the offense. Did they add anyone to the O-line? Not really, huh? It's kind of the same O-line coming back.
They picked up a bunch of undrafted guys that are doing pretty.
Yeah, I'm talking about the starting lineup right now.
You had a top 11 offensive line last year, so it's not, you didn't have to really add much to it.
Top 11.
Well, it was number 11, so I had to say top.
Yeah.
11. I couldn't say top 10 because it was number 11.
The 11th best O-line last year. Anyways, I think that might have been carried a little bit by the running back, maybe just a tiny bit. Receiver out wide that just destroys everyone off the line of scrimmage. But anyways, and then on defense, you're bringing in Marcus Peters, Marcus Epps, lots of Marcuses. Joe, I'll let you go after Tony, but I just don't see how the Raiders improved this offseason.
So
maybe continuity wise.
Well, you said you were going to let Tony talk.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I think that, like, I found myself in this weird spot with, like, what if Josh McDaniels actually is a good coach? And what if in the world where he is getting to a point where I'm going to get to establish culture and discipline, which is something the Raiders haven't had for a long time, and you look around and you're like, well, Colton Miller has played pretty well, and one of my breakouts for them was Parham, right? Like, I like that side of the offense. I think that's why the line can grade so well, is because you can run left, I believe it is. And then you have a big-time wide receiver in Devontae Adams. For whatever reason, the Josh McDaniels holds himself back is with the quarterback position. Like, he can't find this thing to be happy. Like, he can't find a situation that's happy. If Jimmy G is healthy, we've already seen he can win football games. Now, it helps when you have a great defense. So that's the big thing, like, where I kept giving the Raiders more losses, where I'd be like, can the Raiders win this game? They could. Is the defense going to be able to make plays? Like, are they going to be able to make enough plays in the secondary? One of the guys that you can help me, is it Jacorian
Bennett?
Jacorian Bennett. Every time I see a report about this guy, they're like, this is a cornerback that the Raiders have been waiting for. Like, this kid is going to take some lumps, but going to be big, and then that might be able to push Hobbs back into this.
Played opposite of Banks in Maryland.
Yeah. So every time I look, I'm like, you know what? On paper, this team is kind of shaping up in the right direction, but is Garoppolo going to be able to stay healthy, and is the defense going to make that kind of a jump? And if there's any injuries, I look at the roster and I'm like, this is just bad. But my record prediction isn't going to reflect it, but I think the Raiders will be tougher to beat, just kind of like they were last year. Like, they lost a lot of really close games, and the Raiders could have been easily been 9-8 last year, right? And they just couldn't finish. Yeah, there was
5. They lost 5 games where they had a 17-0 lead on Kansas City at one point.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
So could they win 7, 8, 9, 10 games again this year? Easily they could do that if Jimmy G stays healthy for the whole year. And then on top of that, you have to get health and production from Chandler Jones this year. You have to get him on the field with Max Crosby and being able to rotate in Tyree Wilson. Like, if that happens.
Yeah, and one thing we
something.
haven't even talked about is, and I don't know when we post this, but he could be signed by then. But Josh Jacobs needs to go back on the field after watching the first preseason game. Zamir White got a crazy amount of carries to make sure that, and it showed that he's the number one guy to go now into the season if Josh Jacobs is not there. But it's going to take time for our running game to get going to Josh Jacobs' status if Josh Jacobs not on the field. So Josh Jacobs needs to be back on the field for the Raiders offense to get going week 1 straight out of the gate, or else you got to work your way in and letting Zamir White get into there. But let me tell you, Tony, I'm impressed with the defensive line. I think the defensive line is going to be very much improved this year. They have 18 guys in there in training camp right now that they're rotating in and out. They brought in they got a bunch of second-year guys. Josh McDaniels, like you talked about Josh McDaniels, Tony, and this, I was very, when they hired Josh McDaniels, I was just like, let's see what happens. Last year, I was very upset with a couple of the things he was done, but Josh McDaniels, I've been very voicing this opinion out there a lot this offseason. I think something's changed in Josh McDaniels. I don't know what it is. Something snapped in him that turned him, and he's actually like, maybe because they did the player questionnaires at the end of last season, and they said this coaching staff doesn't listen to players. And, you know, with Darren Waller gone, with Derek Carr gone, even if you considered them good players or whatever you thought, sometimes they brought the headaches to the team. Or you know, Derek Carr did a good job of reflecting, but also some people were blaming him for some of the losses. Darren Waller was never on the field. So you got rid of some of these people, and sometimes addition by subtraction helps out a team. And bringing in your guys, people that you know that buy into your system. And Josh McDaniels talking about the second-year defense, talking about Patrick Graham, like people were like, well, our defense sucks. Well, him and Patrick Graham sat down this offseason and go, how can we get players to understand our system better? And they broke it down, and they made it simplified for players. And now, like Mike was saying earlier about other teams, is when you have players that aren't thinking so much on the field and just going, it's going to make a big difference. And I think one of the most underrated signings for the Raiders is going to be Marcus Epps, who gets to sit back there, and they're saying that he just puts people in position. He might not be the greatest player on the field, but if you got somebody back there who's a leader, putting people in position and able to read the offense before it happens, before pre-snap, it's good. Marcus Peters is a great addition for the Raiders because they haven't had a guy like that who goes up and tries to take a ball away. And, Tony, I'm telling you right now, Jacorian Bennett is going to be a name known across this league at the end of this season. Everybody's going to know his name. He's going to be starting on the other side of Marcus Peters, moving Nate Hobbs back to the slot where he thrived in his rookie season. So those are going to be your 3 guys up there. The only question I have with the Raiders defense, and it's a big question mark, is Diablo going to linebacker, and he's moving he was safety / linebacker last year, going back and forth. He's now just strictly linebacker. He gained 15 pounds. He said that he feels more comfortable in that spot. I don't know. And Robert Spillane coming over. Robert Spillane was a backup in Pittsburgh. Now he's going to be thrown into the starting role. You know what I mean? Like, you're the guy now. So the linebacker position is where I question it a little bit. I think our offensive line will be fine. I think we have a little bit more depth at wide receiver this year than we've had in the past. Hunter Renfro's supposedly healthy, coming off of last year, understanding the offense a little bit more. There was question marks about him. So I think the main thing I'm getting from the Raiders this year is just the vibe and the atmosphere. The locker room, it feels has a little bit of different feel to it, and everybody's buying in.
Yeah.
That was a long one, right?
Yeah, I'll let the Raiders fans have that one. Like, go ahead. You got a nice little breakdown here from Joe. Like, that was probably the longest take you've ever given, other than when you've done super rants on Niner fans and Cowboy fans. So I'll give them that one. My thing with the Raiders is, and if I'm being honest, it's the same thing with the Cardinals, man. They always seem like they're halfway into rebuild, halfway into trying to contend. Like, how many years is this team away currently from contending for reals in the AFC? 2, 3? I mean, by then, Devontae Adams is 33 years old, so you should get your picks. You should cash them in right now.
You're just biased, but it's okay. It's okay.
What are you saying? You think they contend in the AFC this year?
Yes, I do.
I'm biased, though.
I'm not being biased. We'll get to my predictions in a minute, but even Tony said it. They're going to be a competitive team.
He said they might win 9 or 10 games if it goes perfect. That's not contending in the AFC.
Which is a competitive team, which you're moving forward. And that's what Tony's saying. And I didn't even mention one of my favorite guys because I know Tony wants to mention him later. Another safety that the Raiders have, so I'll just let it go.
I think if they have the best season possible this year, they're still multiple years away from hitting an AFC Championship game. I think that's pretty universally agreed upon, other than Raiders fans, of course.
I think the thing that's so brutal about the AFC is, like, you look around, and we all know this. We all know the game is about having your franchise quarterback, and the Raiders don't have that guy now, but they have a team that will keep them out of being in that top
Perfect.
spot. But we talked about right before the cameras came on with Joe, and I wish more Raider fans. Actually, you know what? Fuck you guys. I don't even care. Aiden O'Connell balled out. Like, he did such a good job. And if you can't be excited about potentially having a guy that might be able to give you good snaps and good reps, like, that's on you. Like, you should be embracing the fact that he looked like a very complex offense, too, and he was getting to multiple reads. He was, even before, he knew where it was going to be. He was looking off safeties. I'm like, oh, shit, like, this guy is prepared to play in an NFL game. And you look around the league at some of the other rookies, and it was not the case, where it was like, not there. So I just think that's the major question mark for me, is like, when you say they're a few years away from competing, like being legit contenders, yeah, it's kind of that way, because you either have to have, the 0-2 Bucks defense, or you got to have you got to have a top 5 quarterback in the AFC. And they don't have either one of those things. So, yeah, they're probably a few years away from being what I would consider legit contenders. But what the fuck do we know?
But all you got to do is make the playoffs. Once you make the playoffs, you get a chip in a chair.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Doyle Brunson, R.I.P., big guy.
But, I mean, like Tony said, I didn't even get into AOC. And Raider fans are so negative because of either they hate Josh McDaniels, they hate that Derek Carr moved on, or they hate that we went to the playoffs and then had a bad season last year. That was the first losing season in Las Vegas history. I'm just saying that, just throwing that out there.
I think.
See how you can move some stats around like that? You can do what you want.
That's funny.
I think a couple years ago, when they were making the decision on Carr and making all these choices with the Tom Brady stuff, they should have just ripped off that Band-Aid and said, all right, we're going to start the rebuild now. We're going to go full in on it, and we're going to find the franchise quarterback, and we're going to go for it. So, again, I think they're just in this meddling stage where you don't get a high pick to get a quarterback. You win enough games to stay out of that, but you also, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But if they have the best season ever, they lose in the wild card round.
So I think one of the biggest issues with the Raiders is they went from old school rigid coach to old school rigid coach. Like, even though Josh McDaniels' errors, like, kind of falls on a little bit more on the younger side, his entire style is like, there's one way to do it, and that's my way, and I know this way. Like, he comes from that same way Gruden comes from that thing. Where, like, the reports I read was that Gruden didn't want Tom Brady because was not going to be like his guy. He wasn't going to get credit for that. Tom Brady was going to get more credit than him. Like, Josh McDaniels would have been fine with having Tom Brady there getting the credit because he knows he would have won. He already knows what that feeling is like to live in a shadow of Tom Brady. So, like, they just have had these two guys where they're not bringing in anybody that's sort of understanding a constant changing climate in the NFL. And I think that's one of the reasons guys like Pete Carroll and Andy Reid continue to have so much success. And a lot of these younger guys that come from working with Sean McVay, like Kevin O'Connell in his first year. Now, I know if you watch the NFC North preview, I was a little down on the Vikings this year, but the dude won 13 games in his first stint there. Mike McDaniel went down, had a winning season and made the playoffs. Like, you start looking around and you're like, because these guys get it. They're just constantly building. They're looking around at what they have and they build around it. And if McDaniels understands, let me see with what I have and I'm going to build everything around that. It could be a new day for the Raiders.
Even Staley, 20 wins, took over a team with a rookie quarterback that had just won, I think, 6 games the year before.
Yeah.
And here we are,
I like Dave Ziegler. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he's doing in Las Vegas, but I really like the GM there.
Hopefully he trades Devontae Adams tomorrow.
I also think it's probably been a little bit tougher sell to get free agents there with Josh McDaniels as the head coach.
Well, yeah, but winning changes things.
Exactly. Like if they start winning, you're gonna find more people that are cool with going and living in the desert.
All right, let's get these breakout players in because we knew that this one was probably going to be the longest one, but it's getting close to an hour. So breakout players, I'll give you mine first so I could just steal it. Okay. Steal it from Tony here. I don't know if you're going to say this, but I'm going with Isaiah Spiller as my breakout player. I think the Chargers have been hunting for an RB2 for all these years. All of these years hunting for an RB2. I think they finally found it. That preseason game's got me juiced, even though his big run got called back because of holding. It didn't matter. Like, he hit that hole. That's what we need. He's going to be a downhill runner for us this year. I don't think he's going to have this crazy season. But when Spiller gets in there, he's going to give the juice that the Chargers need and the confidence the Chargers need. Sorry, possibly to move on from Eckler eventually.
I was going to say that, Mike. I was going to be like, how funny would that be? It wouldn't be not funny, but if Spiller has such a great season that he supplants Austin Eckler.
I'd be okay with that. I'll be okay with that.
That would be like...
That's what we're rooting for as Charger fans, is for Isaiah Spiller to take Austin Eckler's spot.
Don't let Mike speak for Chargers
You don't want a 31-year-old running back. You want the next thing, not
as the voice of the Chargers, this is what we want.
Leader of Bolt Talk.
This is what we want.
I need to clip this out. Whoever edits this from our social media team, I need you to go change my hot take from the beginning. Austin Eckler, 2,000 all-purpose yards. That's the new hot take. I'm not going to let man.
If he has 2,000 all-purpose yards,
just push him in.
He's going to go over 1,200 touches in the last 3 seasons.
Thank you for 40 touchdowns. Thank you for 40 touchdowns, but get the hell on out, Austin Eckler.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying
we're done with you.
We are rooting because Austin Eckler's getting up there in years. The contract's expiring. We know what's going to happen. We are rooting for Isaiah Spiller to take over. We don't want to have no running back next season.
So do I. That he signs one of these Zeke deals for $3 million with a bunch of incentives. I love that. He's back on the team next year.
You know what?
Eck?
Yeah. Eck.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, but I'm just saying if Eckler's going to be gone and we're moving on from him, I want Spiller to be that dude.
You already know where Eckler's going when he leaves.
If he goes to the Raiders, I'm going to be so pissed.
Y'all won't even pay Jacobs.
Well, they don't have to pay Eckler. He'll just do it out of spite just to piss off the Chargers.
Doesn't seem like the move that he's going for here.
Oh, you want me to take $6 million and come over there and beat my team? Yeah, I'll do it.
If he signs for $6 million, then we actually will riot. I will be pissed about that. But who wants to go first with your breakout player?
So I'll let you name the Raiders safety we were talking about because I want to name the guy you talked about from the Chargers who, if you were going to create a virtual player, like if you could find a way to clone or create, it's Kenneth Murray, K9. The way that he looks in a football uniform is like video game type, and I think that's finally going to catch up this year, and we're going to see this guy going sideline to sideline and making crazy explosive plays. Like he's going to have somebody on the field who can tell him exactly what his assignment is, and you're going to see a madman running around.
So it's crazy that we talk about how leadership, Kendricks might not have what he used to have, but just the leadership ability that he can bring to the linebacker room helps out a lot more, is what you're saying?
You can feel it. You can feel it from everything that's coming out of Chargers.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. When you add leadership to a locker room, it adds more, and that's what people – I think we underestimate when players leave teams, when great leaders leave.
And he can really take us to the next level if he can break out, man.
So I actually wrote 2 names down, Tony, and you guys didn't mention one of them, but we have talked about these guys. So, I mean, you guys already know how much I love Bennett, so I'm not even going to bring him up because of how much I've talked about him. But Trayvon Moehrig, I think, is going to break out for the Raiders. I went out to training camp, saw him. They were moving him around everywhere. They had him coming up to the line blitzing. They had him moving back. They had him wherever you can line him up. They had him, Tony, just going back and forth. And he feels that he's comfortable in here. He feels that he's healthy. And so that was my breakout, but that was just me kind of being a homer. But I actually think he's
on my list.
John. But Tony had him too. But I was going to go with your guy, Quentin Johnson. Someone that we laughed about when he got drafted, but I mean, come on, going into that wide receiver room, he's showing the speed, and we all know that the Chargers are going to need wide receivers down the stretch. Somebody that's going to break out.
Doing a lot of TCU talk over here. A lot of TCU talk. Moehrig, Johnston, keep the list going.
All know this. The Moehrig thing is legit from what I've been seeing, right? Like they're lining him up at nickel, but then it's like a disguise where he's not actually playing nickel. He's blitzing, and then it's Fun stuff if you're a Raiders fan. If you're not a Raiders fan, well, they're going to be terrible.
Awful.
When should we start?
Let's do it right now. Shout out to Quinnen Myers, Denver guard. Shout out to George Karlaftis. Those other guys I had written down. Last year, AFC West champ, for our predictions at least, was Joe.
What?
Oh, what?
Hold on.
Who had 13 games wrong, or 13 games off of the accurate prediction. And then me and Tony both were one off with 14 each.
And I think I gave the Raiders, I think I had the Raiders win the division last year. You
Yeah,
guys
it
were
was
that
pretty ugly,
horrible?
actually.
There's no way that I can't. I have to
Put it on the board, Tony!
Check it out.
I know I won,
Go
but there's
check it
no
out.
way I was 14 off.
Man. All right, here's the prediction here. Here is the prediction for the
You hate
AFC
that.
West.
You can't give me one
Don't get too
ounce of
excited.
credit.
I got the Raiders
I'm
going.
competitive, and I want to win every division.
Every
It
single
doesn't
one,
Hey,
every
matter.
single
I think I've won the AFC West every time we've done this.
No,
You're
last
just
year-
making that up.
last
No, I'm
year-
not making it up.
Last year, I was literally one off from the year before. It came down to me having a perfect record prediction between the Raiders Chargers, and then the Raiders beat the Chargers in Week 18. I would have had perfect records for Chiefs all the way down to the Broncos. And
So you called the Raiders going 9-8.
I called the Raiders going 9-8 that
Y'all are
year.
way too high on the Raiders. Way too high on the Raiders. I got them going 6-11 this year.
Oh no, not this year.
Yeah, so that's what my prediction is.
No,
for the
he was
Raiders.
talking about a couple years ago.
I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
I know.
Yeah.
I was trying to transition, but thanks for ruining it.
You need to work on that transition game.
So you're starting off in last place.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
Okay.
And then I had the Broncos going 8-9, finishing in third. The
Yeah.
Chiefs finishing second at 11-6, and the Chargers at 12-5, winning the division in a Week 18 game versus the Chiefs.
Weak.
Go
Put
ahead.
a little mustard on this sandwich here.
Put it on
Broncos.
This is what's gonna win it for me when the
Broncos are 4-13. It's probably a little low. It's probably more like 6-11. The Raiders, I have them at 5-12. Again, probably a little low. Chiefs 13-4. Chargers 13-4. Like Mike said, Week 18, I'll be in attendance for that when Justin Herbert finalizes his MVP campaign and throws touchdowns. Yeah. 48, 49, 50, 52, 53, 54.
Yeah, Joe, our
6
hearts aren't going to
touchdown
get broken in Week 18 again, right?
Never. I mean, you guys should always root.
I just
Yeah,
called for a six touchdown game in Week 18.
Okay, so
Put some mustard on it.
it's funny because I was using I was going game by game too, and I had the division at Week 18 as well, one in Week 18. So, that's just the way it's played out. But I have my records a little bit different than you fellas over here.
I bet.
At the bottom, of course, the Denver Broncos, who haven't been able to beat. Well, the only team they could beat in the division right now has been the Chargers the last couple of years, right? They're like a 15-game, 16-game loss streak to the Chiefs. They're on a 6-game loss streak to the Raiders. And then, they're just one, I think, to you guys.
Well, we benched our starters. Everyone forgets that. But, yeah, they were too late. They benched them too late, but they benched them.
But they benched them. But, yeah, so I have the Denver Broncos going 5-12 at the bottom of the division. But like I said, my win, I gave people more wins than maybe I should have. But I have Broncos going 5-12. Then I have the Raiders in third place at 10-7. Well, yeah, you guys are like, what, 10-7? You got to remember this division it has one of the toughest schedules as well, too. So then I have in third place, I have the Chargers at 10-7. And then at number 1 in the division is the Kansas City Chiefs at 10-7. So I have 10-7, 10-7, 10-7. When you break it down, though, the Raiders still missed the playoff as the number 8 seed.
Wait. So you in like either the AFC North or somewhere, you have like multiple teams winning 12, 13 games. That's the only way that makes sense. In the other AFC divisions, they're just loaded with wins.
No, my number 1 team in the conference, I think has 12 wins.
Oh, okay. So the
So
NFC is coming up now.
remember, I told you I think it's a very competitive league, and the AFC is very tough. The AFC West, I'm probably way off, but the AFC West schedule is very tough. If you look at Kansas City, Chargers, Raiders, they have some tough teams that they got to play, and they're all AFC opponents. So the AFC is going to beat up each other all year long. because I think you guys, we play Buffalo. The AFC West plays Buffalo. They play the Jets. They play Miami. So, I mean, come on. That's week 1. Chargers, Miami. Week 1 is in there. So, AFC teams are just going to beat up each other. But, yeah, I have 10-7, 10-7, 10-7, and then 5-12.
What if, like, every team goes 10-7 or 3-14? Like, that's the only only records across the league is 10-11 wins or 3 wins.
But
There's
see,
no in-betweens.
I would love for my Raiders to make the playoffs, but I still have them going 10. I have them winning 10 games and missing the playoffs.
That's respectable.
It's not reflexible. It sucks because I wanted to find a way to do it, but I kept clicking on stuff and it wouldn't work.
I can tell you're trying to find a way to get it.
It wouldn't work.
I can tell.
But no, 10-7. But I mean, for what everybody's projecting him to do, some people are putting him at 3 wins. I think that's bullcrap. I think they're a way better team than everybody.
I gave him double the amount of that, Joe.
Yeah, I think it would be a real.
And just remember who won this division last year when you go and listen to these
Tony's
people.
gonna fact check it
because you have
I'm
people that are
definitely
real
gonna fact
biased
check.
on their Chargers. So I
Let's
mean,
just
come on.
let's just end this now. These people are probably like, what the fuck are
Raiders
with this group of guys?
Well,
We are
say it
AFC
one
West
time,
fans,
Tony.
guys. So if you
Just say it
appreciate
one
our
time.
passion,
Never.
please like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications to be here for more of that. All right, we'll catch you guys on the next division preview.
Not cheating if you use my mic.
Please share this with Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers fans.